hit on the feedback, but get specific numbers, no.
I think we believe from the first slide Kelly showed with all of the projects, so we tested each project standalone. Do you support this project?
Right.
Each of those suggested support.
Yes.
So there's no statistical single question that tells us that it's cost. But I think we're assuming, and the survey provider I think agrees, there's general support for the solution. It's just expensive. That's a relatively common reaction we see when we do projects like this. So that is a positive. It's a very positive thing that hopefully we found a pathway or a direction for a solution that the community likes. We now just need to work on how we can make it affordable enough for the community to buy into it so it can be implemented. It's a good question though.
What is the, in regards to looking at these programs, you're looking at a number that you're taking for a tax base. What are you using in that number, and what are the projections with the growth in the area where you're putting the middle school in new subdivisions? What is the expected growth over the next 5 years in regards to increased tax base?
We actually did a,
No, I don't recall if this is based on 0% growth for a year or two and then 2% growth moving forward. I don't recall how the finance model was built, do you?
I'd have to check with actually Lisa. We've seen small growth, so 2 to 3% growth, but it's nothing significant. And we haven't looked at that in respect to those actual developments. We would have to look from talk with the city on that.
Because you're
as well.
having major additions in retail and commercial properties in the district. You're also looking at increasing, I think, not major, but there's a significant increase in development of housing in certain areas too. And that's kind of a city question to the matter of what you guys are doing. But if you're looking at 3, 5, 10% growth, and looking at what the population from the school children standpoint is going to be, what is that going to, how affect your populations in the school and the need for classroom size from that standpoint.
And it does get a little tricky with schools when you look at it from a financial perspective, strictly for schools, not necessarily a tax impact, because the way that the state Department of Revenue evaluates school district property or municipality property, they look at it not on an assessed value, but on an equalized value. So in comparison to the rest of the state, how do we look from a financial perspective? And as our properties grow, we actually lose state aid, and so our taxes go up as a direct result in that capacity, separate from debt. So there's a lot of moving parts that factor into that, plus with a lot of the commercial development, the TIF districts play into that. We don't see that necessarily initially until those TIFs close out. So
That was one part of what I was just looking at capacity-wise for the...
oh, looking at enrollment capacity?
Right.
Yeah, we factored in.
yeah, we do have some growth put in just as far as, we did a population lab study of our growth, and it showed a flat to a slight decline. We'll kind of go back to that study, but knowing that if we build and create an environment similar to how the city is investing in the future, we would expect that there would be some growth. We would expect people would come. It would revitalize the growth of the area from a standpoint of residents, but we do have space already allocated, but it's not a ton. It's reasonable amount. Did you have a question?
Oh, I had more of a survey question. I'm sure you mentioned in the beginning, I know I read in the paper, how many people actually took this survey, and how does that compare to what you would expect at a public referendum as far as percentage of communities showing up?
We had 2,908 people complete the survey, which was, I think, at 23%, which is very high. And so school perceptions looked at that as a very, very strong response rate.
You would expect that same amount to show up at the polls or more?
We would expect more to show up, but there's a direct correlation between people that take surveys and people that vote. So the population being 2,900 respondents, that's a great representative sample. And the company that did this has conducted over 300 surveys of this type, and they have tracked all those results over the years. They're very predictive of how people vote on referendums. So I think the key is to trust the data. You can assume that the level of support extrapolated to a full population voting is going to be pretty accurate.
So if you receive 23%, what's the average response rate for these types of
18 or 19.
Okay.
What referendum are you looking at putting this out to the public for?
Probably spring. April?
Way in the back.
Your facility plans, do you have a place for the 4K, or does that still continue to be outsourced?
Outsourced.
That's done for two reasons. So one of the main reasons the board wanted to keep it outsourced is if for some reason we decide it doesn't work, it's not working in our system, or we lose funding for it. And I'll be honest, the only reason the board added 4K, staff had, the administration pushed for it for the whole academic reasons, but the board strictly did it for a numbers reason. We get more state aid per head count. We actually get more state aid by having 4K than if we didn't, so that's why we did it. If for some reason those numbers ever change and it's already outside of our system in other buildings, it's easier and less painful to eliminate those programs without having a broad impact and having all this extra space and staff and our own staff and everything district-wide by having it outsourced.
Is the board forced to make a all-for-one type of referendum question, or will it be a divided question?
We will not be doing it all for one. I can guarantee that.
Be a multiple question referendum?
It'll be multiple, or once we're done with your presentation, you're going to see some of the direction from this input that we've gotten and where we may be headed for this. So everything you're seeing, they're simply going over the survey that was out there and results at this point. We're going to be talking a little bit later about what directions the board's going to be headed. But you know, a lot of these numbers in here we're listening to what the survey says. So if the people are saying they don't like something, we're not going to be asking you to come forward with it. So.